Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video. And in today's video, I'm going to be predicting the Navarrete versus Valdez rematch. And so, if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So, going into this fight, Navarrete is 38 2-1 with 31 KOs, and Valdez is 32 2 with 24 KOs. This fight is for the WBO World Super Featherweight title. Navarrete's last fight was a loss via split decision versus Borincic, and Valdez's last fight was a win via TKO in round 7 versus Wilson. Navarrete is 29 and Valdez is 33. Navarrete has a 72-inch reach and Valdez has a 66-inch reach. Their first fights between the two of them ended with Navarrete winning via unanimous decision in 2023. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I mentioned, this is for that WBO title again, in which I believe there's the same belt that they competed for last time, and it was the only belt in which they competed for last time, if I'm correct. It's interesting to see how Navarrete is still even classed as a world champion. I mean, he went up in weight to try and become a full-weight world champion. There's no discredit in trying to go and do that. He then fell short, and in a fight in which he was kind of big as a big name coming into the lightweight division. He was seen as somebody to be watching out for. Everybody was kind of expecting him to be able to breeze past Borincic, and he looked poor. He looked like the inconsistent version in which we see of him. His footwork really wasn't good. He was coming in clumsily, and Borincic had a lot of success and, of course, got a knockdown in the process as well. And, it wasn't a good performance for him. He's now returned back down in weights. He's also, before that fight versus Borincic, had that draw versus Sao as well. So, in general, it's interesting to see how he can even be classed as a world champion. He's a legendary name. He's a free weight world champion. He's been through there and been there and done that, and he's had some extraordinary moments. He's been in some great fights. He's that kind of pure Mexican breed type fighter who for a fact is always going to be entertaining, and with his style alongside that, that is again an entertaining style in which he's gonna always kind of bring the fans in, and he has that kind of fan base which, like I say, will just follow him around. And in general, this fight, the first time, was a great fight. I'm quite excited to see this rematch. It's a rematch in which perhaps doesn't necessarily need to take place. Perhaps there's a couple of other fights which may have been more important. A Sao rematch could have happened. He's gone on to fight Foster and then gone on to lose against Foster, so I'm not too sure if that will happen again. Now it might, but other than that, there probably were other options that could have happened. But in general, entertainment wise, I think this is the one that makes sense. Obviously, like I say, Navarrete last time out moved up in weight. He's now returning back down in weight, and that's something which is interesting and something in which a lot of fighters find hard to do. Navarrete has been known as a bit of a weight bully in the past, and he's always been big for the weight, and he's always been, you know, cutting weight to look big. He's always quite a tall, imposing figure who's always going to put his size upon you, and he's never really been seen as the most professional outside the ring. Commentators saying things like how he's eating sweets and eating kind of junk food before fights, before weighing in and stuff like that. To see him now come down in weight again when Valdez has been fighting at this weight for a while now. He's a two-weight world champion in his own right, and he's been comfortable at this weight for a while. To see him coming back down, it's going to be interesting to see how he handles this and how his body deals with it, because, like I mentioned, it's not an easy thing to be able to fluctuate in weights as well as what Navarrete has been able to do. He went on that run. He's been a free weight world champion. It's perhaps easier to go up in weight and progress up in weight. You see some of the greatest fighters progress up in weight, but for them to then go back down again is something which is very difficult, especially when you're at these lower weights where you have to make a tough weight and you probably do have to drain your body as well. It's just going to be intriguing to see how it goes and how that plays out. But in general, I think this is a great fight. I think it's a great rivalry as well. A lot of the top best fighters, they have that rivalry, and a pure Mexican rivalry in which realistically it's two guys who in that first fight really slugged it out, really gave it their all, and in the end, they were both knackered, and you can see that. And like I say, I think it was a needed rivalry and a great rivalry at the same time. For Valdez, like I say, he's coming off a very good win versus Wilson, a much better performance than that of what Navarrete had versus Wilson. Like I say, you never really know what version of Navarrete you're gonna get. It's kind of like a couple fights, hit miss, hit miss, hit miss type vibe, and you never really know what type of version you're gonna get. With Valdez, you typically know what you're gonna get, and he was just too much for Wilson, and he was able to break him down, score, successful knockdowns and have a lot of success. And, it was a very good performance for himself. And he's, like I say, still a two-weight world champion in his own right. He's a great name to have. He's getting cut often, which is something which I picked up upon. It's seemingly, perhaps the wars over time and things like that is something in which he just seemingly always gets cut in fights. He knows how to deal with it. Yeah, I think he has immense heart. That's something I'm definitely not going to question. But I think he does get cut often, and if he gets cut again, how many times can you deal with getting cut badly and still be able to keep coming forward as well? And Valdez has done very well doing it so far, but it's interesting to see if he's going to be able to handle that again if it does go to if that does happen. Obviously, like I said, this is a non-Riyadh season card. It's a top ranked card, and in general, I think it's an excellent card. You have Navarrete versus Valdez. Another fight which I'm going to talk about in a moment is Ramirez versus Espinoza too. You have Delgado as well. You have Santillan making a return as well. I think it's an excellent card, an excellent show. And Top Rank in general have got a plethora of talent, and I'm been impressed with the recent cards in which they've been putting out. Some of them, not all of them have been amazing. I mean, from the looks of things, this Munguia one in which we have coming out isn't a great card, but Munguia, I'm not even too sure if he's with Golden Boy or not. But in general, I think when they have big stars, they want to put on big shows, Top Rank, and with the competition of Riyadh season as well, a lot of top ranked fighters have been lured over to fight on Riyadh season shows, but I still believe that they want to put on very good top cards, and I think the competition with Riyadh season cards in general is it should be elevating other cards, other shows to be at that level. For Matchroom, I just don't think it has been, and for certain promotions for Golden Boy, I don't think it has been either. And I feel like certain promotions should up their game. I think for PBC it has, I think for Queensbury it has, and I think for Top Rank it has as well. So, just something that I wanted to say and something I wanted to point out. Also on this card, though, like I say, is Ramirez versus Espinoza too. It's a great fight. The first fight was a great fight as well. It was perhaps a little bit similar to that of Navarrete versus Valdez, that kind of slugging out war, but Ramirez landed a great shot, I believe, at the end of the fifth round against Espinoza when Espinoza was kind of messing around with his footwork, stepping between orthodox and southpaw when you don't necessarily need to do that, and he got caught with a big shot. He really rocked him. He did very, very well to be able to carry on, and to be able to carry on and then win. The mentality in which he showed, you could tell how important this fight was to him. He was so resilient, pushing through, got the knockdown late, which is realistically what won him the fight. I think it's interesting to see that it took so long to see them both go against each other again. It's been over a year now, I believe, since the original fight, and I was expecting this to be a bit sooner. The rematch, Ramirez was a big top ranked name. Espinoza was not that big name, and it's been surprising to see that Espinoza's been able to build upon that, and it's been impressive at the same time to see that he's been able to build upon that. He's now, since that last performance versus Chirino, he's had, he's looked very good, and he's built himself a bit of a fan base, and you can tell he's popular, and he has that Mexican support behind him, and like I say, he's built his career now, and if he's able to go upon and get another win here, then he is kind of the face of the featherweight division at the moment. This is for the WBO World Featherweight title. When you look at the other featherweight champions, there isn't they aren't huge names. I mean, Nick Ball is a big name. He's probably the biggest name at the moment. You also have, you have Liao as well, and you have Vargas. Vargas is a big name, but he's not really been fighting too much recently, and he arguably lost versus Nick Ball in that first fight. So I don't think the featherweight division is as stacked as it used to be. I think Ramirez was, when he was coming up, he was seen as this guy who was going to be able to have the belt for a while, defend it against a while. There was talks of him versus Inoue and things like that when Inoue moved up, but perhaps that was too much for Ramirez to be dealing with. Espinoza kind of shut that down, and there hasn't really been talks about it since. Ramirez is coming off a great knockout himself. Last time out was a beautiful uppercut. I think the body, the work in which he does, the shots in which he lands, the angles in which he's able to utilize, the uppercuts in which he can throw are excellent. But Espinoza seemed to be able to take that in the first fight. Can he take this in the second fight? He got hurt quite a lot in that first fight, Espinoza. I think Espinoza's going to win via TKO in round 8. Perhaps that's a surprising one. I think it's going to be another case where Espinoza can fight on the inside very well. He can fight at a mid-range very well. I think Ramirez may be overreaching some of his shots. I think he headhunts a bit as well at the moment, and I think he did that in the first fight and was in general overreaching some of his shots. Espinoza caught Ramirez out with how well he can fight on the inside. He turns over his punches very nicely, similar to an extent of that of like a Fundora as well. And you see the recent success in which he's had. I think Espinoza can win via TK in round 8. I think he can stop Ramirez. That is a huge statement win. I don't necessarily. I'm not necessarily saying that the fundamentals of boxing of Espinoza's are better than that of Ramirez, but I think for this fight, I don't necessarily know if that means anything. When you have a very tall, rangy fighter who can fight in close, turn their shots over, has a great work rate, and will really just have fight at a high tempo, it's hard to be able to counteract that. And I just don't think that Ramirez will be able to do that. Going back to the main event, though, so Navarrete as a fighter, he's an unorthodox fighter. Everybody knows how unorthodox he is. He's very difficult to control, difficult to deal with, and Valdez had success at times dealing with him at points, but throughout a lot of the time, like I say, he's difficult to control, difficult to handle, and that's when he's on his best. He's really making fighters question themselves because of his unorthodox style. He works angles very well. I think that's something in which he can do. He can come from a mid range with a shot. He can come from an in close with a shot, and like I say, just work in different angles. Hard to like I say deal with. He's explosive. He knows how to recover as well. In recent fights, he's been hurt. He's been damaged, but he's been able to get back up and recover. He was hurt versus Barinchik. He got dropped. He looked like he perhaps could have been stopped. He managed to recover and deal with it and get to the end. Same with that of the Wilson fight. He was hurt in that one. He then managed to recover and get the win himself. There's been certain fights in which he has been hurt, especially in recent occasions, and he's been able to recover. I think he digs to the body very well, and that's something in which perhaps to an extent he utilised better than what Valdez did. Valdez has good body work, but he just seemed to headhunt a bit, I think, in that first fight between the two of them. I'm not too sure, but that's just my opinion. He can fight in close well or at mid range. I think typically wants to be in close. He walks you down. He has that mean uppercut in which he throws from a very wild distance, but if it lands, it's definitely gonna hurt and it's definitely gonna punish you. He closes range fast, like I say, with that explosive elements of him. He has that power. He twists into his shots nicely when he gets going with them, and it's powerful. They're both powerful punchers. To be able to stand up to shots against either of them is impressive, and I think that's also another reason why it's going to make for another entertaining contest. He's a pressure fighter. He has a high work rate. He's a combination puncher, but they both are combination punchers as well. So again, that's another reason why it's going to be an amazing fight whenever they come up against each other. Like I said, I think it's a rivalry. This fight could be another very close fight. It could make for their a story to be a third fight. It wouldn't surprise me because they are both very aggressive punchers who are going to put it all on the line and really show their heart and be able to dig deep. Negatives about him, I think he does lean back. He's either going to lean back or he's going to lunge in. They're the two kind of things about him. He's either very much out or very much in. And, in general, like I say, he's very consistent in performances. In recent times, we haven't seen a great performance probably since the last Valdez fight. He's been active since then, he's been fighting since then, but he's not been consistent since then. And perhaps that means we're due a very good performance from him. Perhaps that means that he's a little bit over it now. Perhaps he's a little bit past it now. We'll have to wait and see. He has a low guard that he drops and he gets caught. They both get caught with shots. They both get hurt with shots. And so that's something in which, again, they have that's in common. He overcommits. He can smother. He looks sloppy in that last fight versus Barinchik. I think he was smothering quite a lot of his work. His discipline can be gone as well. I don't necessarily know how much of a discipline he even really kind of has. I don't know what his coaches are saying to him, but it seems like a lot of the time he's fighting ill-disciplined. His footwork coming in can be poor. It looked poor against Borincic. That's why he got caught with a big shot, and that's why he got dropped, because his footwork was poor. He stands upright. He can be quite wild at times. I don't think he always necessarily resets when he should do. I think Valdez is better than that at him. I think he will. If he's hurt, he'll go down. I don't necessarily think he's going to cover up. I've never really seen him cover up and take shots. I think if he is hurt, then he is going to go down. Perhaps that's an experience thing to go down, take the count, and then recover and try and come back. Maybe that's an experience thing, but I think he does go down quite a lot if he does get hurt. His head's on the line. I don't think his balance is very well. He's used to fighting off balance and going for shots that are off balance, and in general just being tricky and off balance in that aspect. But it just, again, there's another reason why he can get caught with shots with his messy footwork. He doesn't necessarily take many backward steps, and if he does, like I say, it means he probably is going down, or he can take backward steps, but he doesn't really cover up too well. He doesn't necessarily bring all his shots back. He can leave his punches out for far too long and get caught with counters then, and that's where Valdez has success in their first fight, because he was able to counter with that big overhand, or that big hook, because he wasn't bringing his shots back. He opens up. And he can be beaten to the punch, and if he's beaten to the punch, then that's when he's gonna struggle, I think. And I think Valdez, was beating him to the punch a little bit, but I think Borincic was definitely beating him to the punch, and that's just something in which if he's gonna struggle with, if he's the fight's not going at his pace, his tempo. Valdez, as a fighter, he feints well, and you've seen, he's able to feint better than that of Navarrete. Navarrete isn't really going to feint very much. He's very much just going to come forwards and be in your face, and he's going to let off whatever shot he wants to throw. He's got a good chin, Valdez. He's been, hurt, and same with Navarrete. I think they have both got good chins, but they've both been hurt at the same time. It's one of them things. They both very much fight off heart, like I say, and they both got that warrior spirit. He's patient in his work, and that's impressive to see that he is able to be patient and pick that shot in which he does often land very well, which is that hook, that very pouncing tight left hook coming from a tight guard, and it's a very hard shot to deal with and to be able to handle with. He circles well. I think, like I say, he moves better than that of Navarrete. I think he can that's defensively better than that of Navarrete in general. I think he won't be bullied, and that's something, again, which is credit to his heart and credit to his warrior type spirit. He won't be bullied by, like I say, somebody like a Navarrete, who is going to try and impose himself, and is going to try and be a weight bully. He counters well. He's going to throw every shot with mean intentions, and every shot is probably going to hurt and probably going to damage you. And like I say, if he lands really clean, then he's really going to hurt you. But every shot, from what it seems, he's perhaps loading up a bit too much. But they're all very aggressive, tightly knitted punches. He's got good timing. He punches over guard. He can fight in close. That in close timing in which he has with that left hook is excellent to see. He hurts you on the ropes. He gives his all, like I say. He plants his feet well, better than that of Navarrete. I think he's got better footwork than that of Navarrete. So I still think he squares up and things like that, but in general, I think he has got that better footwork than that of Navarrete, and in general, it's a bit cleaner boxing than that of Navarrete. Negatives about him, I think sometimes he can take too long to set up with them patient shots. If the shot doesn't become available, Wilson at times was able to slip that left hook, and you could tell that Valdez was going for that throughout the whole fight, and eventually he did get it, and he did hurt Wilson, and he got him out of there. But throughout it, you could see he was waiting. He threw it a few times and it wasn't landing, and he was just kind of going for it over and over again. He can square up, like I say. He can't always handle the explosiveness, and I think that's where Navarrete had success in that first fight, because he couldn't quite handle the whole package of Navarrete. If he's not allowed on the front foot, then I think he can, you know, become a little bit frustrated. I don't think he always does his best work on the back foot. I think he does duck his head down as well, which is, something in which you don't want to do if you get caught with Navarrete's mean uppercut, like I was mentioning before. He wants to control the pace. He's not always going to be able to, but he does want to be the guy to control the pace. He has a lack of a jab as well, which you're never going to see him throw a straight shot realistically, and it'd be a beautiful straight left if he threw it. But even the commentators were saying in that first fight, we just want to see him throw that left hook, and you're just not always going to see that happen. And or not that left hook, that left straight, and you're just not going to see that happen. And then, like I say, I would like to see more straight shots from him. He does headhunt a bit, like I say. In that first fight, I think he was headhunting against Wilson. I think he was going to the body much better, and it looked much more improved. But in general, I think he was headhunting. His shot variation can sometimes be a bit limited. If he goes to the body, it's much better, but I just think it is a bit more limited than that of Navarrete's. And he can, like I say, go for the same shot over and over again a bit at times. Navarrete is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Valdez will win via TKO in round 11. I think it's going to be another back and forth war, a durable one, one in which both fighters are giving their all again. Valdez is landing clean left hooks. Navarrete is having success with perhaps the uppercut, perhaps various different shots in which he kind of overcommits, leans in with, and I just think that Navarrete may smother it a bit more. Valdez, I think, might be able to get the timing down of Navarrete a bit better than he did in that first fight, and I think he's going to win, like I say, via TKO in round 11. I think he'll catch him, punish him after he catches him, like he did against Wilson, like he's done in multiple different fights in the past. And I think that's where he's going to win via, like I said, TKO in round 11. Then who he could go on to fight next? I mean, Foster for that WBC belt, two top-ranked fighters, would be an excellent fight. That's two guys in which, like I say, are fighting at the top of their division at the moment. Foster's coming off a win versus Conceição. It would be a great fight to see, and I'd be completely here for it. Possibly the third fight, like I was mentioning, between the two of these. One of them things, the rivalry, always going to be an entertaining contest, I'm sure, between these two. So why not? We could see it a third time, and I'm sure the Mexican fans won't be against that. Suarez is the WBO mandatory, so perhaps that could happen. It's not a big fight, but as a mandatory to bring a guy in, it's a huge opportunity for Suarez, and like I say, he's got himself in that position, so perhaps that could be the fight to be made. Lee Wood, I was hearing talks about Lee Wood being on a Riyadh season undercard against possibly Navarrete or Valdez, or I was hearing rumours, hearing talks of it, nothing concrete at all. Obviously, we see this now, but that could still happen. Wood wanting to make this return to super featherweight, wanting to make a big fight, seemingly getting frustrated with the limited options available for him, and not really being able to get that stadium fight that he wants or anything similar to it. So perhaps on a Riyadh season card, we could see that happen. Or Cortez. Cortez is a contender who's been, progressing very well. I believe he's like 22-0 at the moment. He could be thrown into a test. He's a top-ranked contender. That could be thrown into a test. It wouldn't surprise me if it happens, and I think it would be about time if Cortez gets against a world title opponent. I think he's warranted one. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.